Good morning. Whatever things that were covered before, we'll take it from there onwards. GDP, national income, those topics were over, right? So, green GDP. Okay. What is the purpose of green GDP? Here, it is about considering environmental cost in calculation of GDP. That means if the growth of a economy is around 5%, to achieve this 5% growth, you need to initiate certain processes like production processes, and in this case, in the process of production of any good or service, environment is degraded. Now, when you are exploiting environment and it is not regenerating, that means homeostasis is not maintained. Now, this environmental degradation is going to compromise the future GDP of a country. Why? Forest acts as a source of raw materials. From forest, you get certain raw materials because of which you initiate certain production process. Also, because of environmental conservation, monsoon is abundant in India. With increasing environmental degradation, what is the immediate outcome or negative consequence? Erratic monsoon. Once monsoon becomes erratic, what are the consequences? Agriculture is affected. Why? In India, even today, more than 60% of cultivation is rain-fed cultivation. That means they are deprived of abundant moisture, and then it deprives livelihoods of millions of people engaged in agriculture. Then agriculture provides raw materials to industry. Likewise, impact of environment in achieving GDP growth is having its own consequences. Therefore, what is a way forward? That means, what does green GDP focuses on? Whenever you are calculating GDP, deduct the environmental cost. Then what happens to the value you get? Say if it is growing by 5%, if you deduct environmental cost, it would be 3.5 or 4.5%. That means whatever GDP you are calculating as of now, it is higher than the existing or the real GDP. In this case, real GDP means considering the socio-economic environmental cost in attaining that number. Okay. This topic is important for mains, and maximum it can be asked for 15 marks. You need to write 250 words. In 2017, World Bank has released a report. In that, it highlighted developing countries to consider green GDP as the most reliable method of GDP calculation. What is the purpose of considering green GDP in calculation of GDP? It will ensure policy direction. That means, for example, government initiated production linked incentive scheme in the recent times. What happens because of this? With increasing production, you'll get an incentive. Why? In the post-COVID, economic recovery is very less or very poor. To stimulate growth recovery, such scheme is implemented by the government. Now, in the process of giving incentives to increase in production, just look into the mindset of micro, small, medium enterprises. Nobody is focusing on the nature of production process. That means, as far as quality is concerned, we are giving least priority. The focus is on production. That means focusing on quantity. In the process, to recover fast, we are ruining environment. Now, what is a worldwide methodology? How things are happening across the world, particularly in developed countries. In developed countries, since 2008-10, they are considering green GDP. Now, because of this, two advantages are happening in those developed countries. One, constantly there is research and development towards green technology in production process. If you want me to give an example, to produce electricity, even today, we rely more on coal. What do you mean by R&D, research and development towards green technology in production process? Now, our objective is to produce electricity. In this objective of production of electricity, what is the process you are using till date? Eco-friendly or environmentally degrading process? Burning coal is environmentally degrading process. Therefore, now the process is renewable energy. So this is the objective of green GDP. Once you shift towards computation or calculation of green GDP, focus on contribution of green technology in the production process in your economy. It is just an example. Or when it comes to agriculture, what do you mean by green production process? In this case, over application of fertilizers, right? What is the purpose of fertilizers? To increase output or to increase yield. In the process of increasing yield or output, you are over applying fertilizers, because of which there are some negative consequences. What are they? Soil is degraded. It leads to eutrophication. How? In geography, you might have studied something called sheet erosion. What is sheet erosion? During rainy season, top surface soil is washed away. Now, where it is getting merged? In the nearby water bodies. The water bodies are source of ecosystem, marine ecosystem or water bodies ecosystem. And what happens because of over application of fertilizer and the top soil merging into the nearby water bodies? It deprives oxygen in that water body. Then what happens to ecosystem in that water body? Does organisms live, survive, or they die? That means eutrophication is having a negative consequence. Soil is degraded. Now, to make this soil fertile again, what is the way forward for the farmer? You need to apply gypsum, right? Reclamation of soils to make them fertile one more time. Does it incur any cost? Of course, yes. That means the cost of soil reclamation should be deducted from the GDP, right? Today, I have used more fertilizers and agriculture witnessed 8% growth rate. But the negative consequences of over application of fertilizer, like soil degradation. Once soil is degraded, I need to make it again fertile to agriculture. So I need to put some investment. Then eutrophication. Again, I need to clean these water bodies. Therefore, for all these activities to overcome these challenges, you do incur some cost, right? Deduct this from 8% growth. Now it will be 6% or 7%. This is your true growth. This is the advantage of green GDP. You can name any of the production process. This is how we need to understand the concept. Right on. Unemployment and poverty, are those topics completed? Okay. So generally, the approach I follow, I prefer for this exam is prelims concepts, one or two mains related questions on that. Okay. And it is not possible to discuss every concept in the same manner. For few topics, I'll guide you, I'll help you how to write answers. In the entire syllabus, dictating model answers for every question is literally impossible task. Okay. So those topics which are covered already, one is GDP, national income, etc. Other one is monetary policy committee, inflation, circular economy, and money market, uh, financial markets. In these, I'll give you some questions. We'll discuss them. Today, we'll discuss green GDP, green economy, and if possible, couple of questions on inflation. Tomorrow, we'll start poverty and then unemployment. Once we're done with this, we'll move to banking. I heard that banking was half done, right? I just started. Okay, we'll initiate banking discussion once we are done with these two topics. I cheptan. We'll start them tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll begin unemployment, poverty. Once these are done, we'll go to banking. Chalo. See, I was told that classes began, but you people did not attend the classes. See, whatever I was ordered by the management, I'm doing it. Okay? Any issue, talk to the management. What can I do? I was given a list, the list of topics covered so far. Apart from this, I have to cover some other things. You talk to them, okay? No, no, Gadamanena. You heard it right? Chalo. Green GDP. It is an indicator of economic growth. It is an indicator of economic growth. With environmental factors taken into consideration, with environmental factors taken into consideration, along with the standard GDP, along with the standard GDP of a country, of a country. Green GDP factors, green GDP factors, factors means considers biodiversity loss, biodiversity loss, and cost attributed to, and cost attributed to climate change. Climate change. This is the definition part. Next. Green GDP, green GDP is about, first point, monetization of biodiversity loss and subtracting resource depletion and subtracting resource depletion, comma, environment degradation, comma, environment degradation from traditional GDP figures. Second, it helps to manage both. It helps to manage both economies, economies. It helps to manage both economies as well as resources, as well as resources equitably, equitably. Now let us write a sentence about what is not green GDP. Green GDP doesn't mean, green GDP doesn't mean growth of green investment, growth of green investment, second, monetary value of forest, monetary value of forest. So green GDP doesn't mean calculating monetary value of forest and adding it or deducting it from traditional GDP figures. Next, ecosystem. Next point, ecosystem services, ecosystem services and resources, ecosystem services and resources such as mineral deposits, mineral deposits, soil, nutrients, and fossil fuels, and fossil fuels are capital assets, are capital assets, but traditional, but traditional national accounts, traditional national accounts do not include measures, do not include measures of the depletion, do not include measures of the depletion of these resources. Next point, it means a country, it means a country could cut its forests, a country could cut its forests, comma, deplete fisheries, deplete fisheries, and this would show only as, and this would show only as a positive gain, as a positive gain in GDP, as a positive gain in GDP without registering the corresponding decline in assets. Now, if you understand the statement, cutting down forests leading to growth rates, right? GDP growth rate. But what do you mean by forest, minerals, etc.? They are natural resource. And all natural resources are considered as assets in any country. Now, on one hand, the asset value is decreasing and you are registering growth rates. If this trend continues, will there be opportunities left? Opportunities left for future generations to achieve growth rates? No. Why? Whatever assets you got in the form of natural resource, you started depleting them. Now, what is depleting and what is degrading? Generally, nature has its ability to regeneration. But when you exploit the resources beyond regeneration, that is called exploitation. And we are trying to do the same thing as of now. So in this case, with increasing GDP figures, we are forgetting an important fact that the national assets are declining. We need to focus on this so that the future generations' ability to attain better GDP growth rates is not compromised. Next. This is where green GDP, this is where green GDP comes into play. Green GDP comes into play. It is a measurement of GDP growth. It is a measurement of GDP growth with environment consequences, with environment consequences, and it is a measure of, how a country is prepared, how a country is prepared for sustainable economic development, for sustainable economic development. Green GDP is expected to Green GDP is expected to account for the use of natural resources, the use of natural resources, as well as the costs involved, After involved, keep a hyphen, write down, keep a hyphen. Medical cost generated from medical cost generated from air and water pollution, air and water pollution, loss of livelihood, due to environmental crisis, such as floods, droughts, cyclone, etc. Now, subheading: efforts taken by India towards green GDP. First point: in 2009, The center announced the center announced that it would publish center announced that it would publish green GDP green GDP that would include that would include environmental costs that would include environmental costs of degrading and depletion of natural resources. Next, experts have recommended that. Second point, experts have recommended that India shift to a system of underline the phrase, measuring comprehensive national wealth, measuring comprehensive national wealth, which includes human capital, capital equipment, that is physical capital, natural capital. This is how countries world over calculate their national wealth. What do you mean by this? As of now, what we're trying to do, we're trying to exploit natural capital with more intensity. Now, this is happening, right? India is one of the bright spots in global economy, and we have already touched a $3 trillion economy. The forex reserves at one point of time were more than 600 billion. That means these are some achievements in India, in the growth story of India. And we are into what? Amrit Kal, as quoted by the finance minister. In this case, when you focus on this, what is happening to national wealth calculation? Now, just look at the other challenges. As I say, developed countries have equal importance, equal focus on all the three important parameters. Unfortunately, in developing countries like India, the focus is on exploiting the natural capital. Now, what about the nature of human capital in India? We are hearing a phrase called demographic dividend, right? What do you mean by demographic dividend in this case? More number of people in working age. When you got this human capital, are you able to provide employment opportunities for this more number of people in the working age? The answer is no. Whoever is entering job market or labor market, what about their skills? Very poor. How do you know this? Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, based at Bombay, in its recent survey says that there is a huge industry academia gap in India. What do you mean by this? Whatever you learn in your universities or in your professional colleges like engineering colleges, whatever it is, that knowledge and skill set is inadequate. What do you mean by this? Market is expecting certain level of skills from you, but you don't possess those skills. So what do you call this? Skill gap. So what is the nature of your human capital? Largely unskilled or low skilled. Now with this unskilled, low skilled, what else you can do apart from exploiting natural capital and achieving better growth rates? Just imagine if your human capital is having a very high quality skill set, accordingly it leads to efficient physical capital. Together, by using minimum resources, you can achieve maximum growth rates. This is how developed countries are progressing since 2005 or after that. Once you bridge the gap between market or industry requirement and the skill set of human resource, they try to tap the opportunities available in the market. What are they? Just if you look into the nature of opportunities as far as economy in the post-COVID is concerned, quaternary, quinary sectors are demanding more skilled workforce. And another important factor which is contributing in this direction is you could see people exiting agriculture. You could see distress migration from rural areas to urban areas. You could see feminization of agriculture. All these things project that human capital is in a very bad shape. Because this is in a bad shape, now come to physical capital. What is physical capital? Capital equipment. In this case, if the country moves towards capital intensive production processes, what would be the social, economic, political consequence? We discussed this in the context of different types of economies: mixed economy, socialist economy, capitalist economy. Unemployment will increase. Not only that, it leads to lack of or it leads to decrease in purchasing power. If purchasing power is decreasing, your GDP can never grow, right? So there are certain consequences because of these challenges. You need to address, else this is in bad shape, this is in bad shape. Therefore, the only opportunity is exploit this as much as you can, and this is the reason why we are getting high growth rates. But this model is not sustainable. How long you exploit your natural resource and achieve higher growth rates? Are the natural resources finite in nature? They are infinite. They are finite in nature. That means there is a limitation for natural resource available. Once you exhaust them, what happens? Therefore, before you exhaust the natural resource, you need to focus on increasing human capital, efficiency of physical capital. Write down. Continue the same point, second point. However, implementation of such recommendations has been constrained by lack of micro level data. Lack of micro level data. Lack of micro level data on capital formation. Third point. While the 12th five-year plan undertook groundwater resource mapping, at the national level, similar focus is essential Similar focus is essential for data on Similar focus is essential for data on land usage, forest and mineral wealth. Similar focus is essential for data on land usage, forests and mineral wealth. Full stop. Fourth point. India's current national accounts incorporate considerations incorporate environmental considerations in a limited manner in a limited manner. Fifth point. GDP includes GDP includes the value of minerals extracted, the value of minerals extracted, timber, fuel wood, FUELWOOD, fuel wood, non-timber forest produce, non-timber forest produce, natural growth of cultivated assets, natural growth of cultivated assets for certain crops, etc. In addition, gross fixed capital formation gross fixed capital formation contains output estimates for improvement of land along with irrigation works and flood control programs. Next subheading: why India should publish green GDP figures. Why India should publish green GDP figures. First one is increasing pollution levels. Keep hyphen. Higher costs of outdoor and indoor air pollution. Outdoor and indoor air pollution are primarily driven by an elevated exposure of young and urban young and urban productive population, young and urban productive population to particulate matter pollution. What is the value of particulate matter in this case? 2.5. PM 2.5 is very dangerous to human health. To particulate matter pollution. Full stop. It results into cardiopulmonary. It results into cardiopulmonary and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease mortality load. Now let us understand this. To increase agri output in Punjab and Haryana, agriculture is very intense, right? 2 to 3 crops, and that too they grow only paddy and wheat. And during winter season, they initiate stubble burning, and the direction of wind is towards Delhi or National Capital Region, Delhi. Why stubble burning? Because to achieve more agricultural growth, they constantly undertakes intense cultivation of rice and wheat. Unless until you grow rice, you don't have to initiate stubble burning. Paddy is the reason behind stubble burning. Because of stubble burning, what happens? Particulate matter 2.5, 10, etc. It is mixing with air in Delhi. Already Delhi is surrounded by industries which emit carbon monoxide, dioxide, sulfur oxides, etc. Already the air is polluted. Add to that stubble burning. Because of which, what is happening? Pollution levels are escalating in or increasing in Delhi. If you stay from 9 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the evening outside on Delhi roads, by evening 5 o'clock, you inhale so much of smoke that it is equivalent to smoking of 20 cigarettes. That means 2 packs of cigarettes are already consumed by you. So without buying cigarette packets, you can get the feel of smoking 20 cigarettes a day. It saves your pocket. And in Delhi, particularly in winter region, starting with Diwali, pulmonary mortality load is increasing. That means people die of lung disease, lung infections, etc. Particularly vulnerable groups like children, pregnant women, old people, and people with comorbidity issues. They are most vulnerable. Now, once because of the stubble burning, increasing air pollution, inhaling polluted air, people are falling sick. And whenever these vulnerable sections they are falling sick, what about their families? They have to spend something on health. What do you call this? Out of pocket health expenditure. It is very high in India. Rather, it is high among countries across the world. What do you mean by this? The gain you get from the additional cultivation of a single crop in Punjab, Haryana, it is killing more people, causing huge healthcare burden on the people. That means you need to focus on this healthcare expenditure along with calculating agricultural growth in Punjab, Haryana. This is the recommendation of expert committee as far as green GDP calculation is concerned. Next. Second problem. Without considering green GDP, the following challenges go unnoticed. The following challenges go unnoticed. First one, significant portion of diseases are caused by poor water supply, sanitation and hygiene, Second problem or challenge, about 23% of child mortality 23% of child mortality in India is attributed to environment degradation. Next, the savings from reduced health damages range from 24 to 105 billion dollars. $24 billion to $105 billion. Full stop. This compensates for the projected GDP loss. Next. We're done with the second point. Come to third point. Within second point, I've given you some 3 or 4 points, right? 3. Now come to third point. We're done with the 2 points. Green growth is measurable. As India is a hotspot. India is a hotspot of unique biodiversity and ecosystems. Fourth point. Tools available in the form of ecosystem services should be considered to calculate green GDP as an index of economic growth. Sixth, in contemporary times, the importance of natural capital has grown the importance of natural capital has grown. That is water, clean water, clean air, etc. But need to be handled, but need to be handled in a sustainable manner, in a sustainable manner to avoid depletion. Next, India suffers from various kinds of pollution, various kinds of pollution, comma, putting more burden on health and putting more burden on health and livelihoods, livelihoods across the country, across the country. Next, according to World Bank, according to World Bank, according to World Bank report, India suffered a cost of India suffered a cost of $600 billion, $600 billion since LPG reforms, since LPG reforms due to air pollution. What do you mean by this? $600 billion worth assets were lost since 1991 as far as air pollution is concerned, because of air pollution. Then what about water pollution and soil pollution or land pollution? We don't have accurate estimates on this. 12th five-year plan has started expert committee to study about the consequence of air pollution, land pollution, water pollution. But the moment it was done with air pollution study, the new government came and you know what happened to planning commission. Next, continue the same point. The cost of water pollution, the cost of water pollution and land degradation were possibly far higher. And another important thing is, this is a point of concern for us. Commodity exports. Knowingly, unknowingly, or consciously, unconsciously, we are increasing more of commodity exports to foreign countries. What is a commodity export? In this case, rice, wheat, etc. What is wrong with export of rice and wheat from India to other countries? You get forex reserves, right? Your imports are increasing. Sorry, exports will increase if you export commodities to other countries. And anyways, we got a current account deficit. Because of increasing export, there will be stability in your balance of payment. It is a good sign, right? But why in this case, Planning Commission has criticized India's decision related to export of commodities to outside world? Producing more. Producing more is good sign, right? Employment will increase. Self-sufficient is enough. No exports. Ah, ah. So what are the consequences here? Somebody shouting at the back. Who? ఆన్సర్ చెప్తున్నారా లేకపోతే మాట్లాడుకుంటున్నారా? Anyways, in this case, Planning Commission discourages India to export commodity goods. The reason being, to grow 1 kg of rice, you require somewhere around 4,000 to 5,000 liters of water, if you know this fact. Now, you have exported some 100 tons of rice to other countries. Indirectly, how much liters of water you exported to other countries? For whose sake you produce this? Not for self consumption but for export. In the export process, how much water resource is utilized? And day by day, year by year, groundwater table is receding. It is going down year by year. On the other hand, there is a carcinogenic elements identified in groundwater table among several states in India. Classic example, Punjab and Haryana. In Andhra Pradesh, northern Andhra Pradesh, you could see what is that place where these kidney elements are increasing? Uddanam, right? Uddanam. And you got fluorosis issue in Nalgonda. What is happening? Groundwater table is depleting, it is going down, and pollutants are increasing in groundwater. On one hand, you got this crisis, and in summer season, you know how urban areas are struggling with water crisis. For example, Hyderabad, we don't get water every day, do we? Because you are living in hostel, you don't know the reality. But in general, Hyderabad is having acute water scarcity during summer season. On one hand, the country is going through tough times as far as water resource is concerned. On the other hand, you're producing rice wheat in more than required quantities, exporting them. That means indirectly you are depleting your scarce natural resource and compromising the ability of individuals to meet their basic needs. In slums, weekly once water is given in Hyderabad. Weekly once through tankers. You just imagine their life. On the other hand, we are cultivating rice, wheat, etc., exporting to other countries. Here, whatever advantage you get because of export of commodities, in this case rice and wheat, are far less than the loss you are computing because of overexploitation of water resource. Planning Commission has called these rice, wheat and sugarcane as water guzzlers. That means which consume huge water. It discourages India to import any good which is a water guzzler. Why to produce more rice and wheat? Produce whatever is required for your consumption. You can export those goods which doesn't have huge impact on scarce natural resource. Next point. Through commodity exports, India is effectively transferring natural capital. India is effectively transferring natural capital to trade partners, rising the risk of desertification and land degradation. Last point in this subheading. Without concentrating on green GDP, within a century, India's food production could see a loss of 10 to 40%. A loss of 10 to 40%. We're done with this. Last subheading, challenges in computation. Challenges in computation. Computation, that means calculation. First one, natural capital can cover natural capital can cover entire ecosystem besides other other hidden and overlooked services and overlooked services. Example, the regeneration of soil, the regeneration of soil, nitrogen fixation, nutrient recycling, nutrient recycling, pollination, hydrological cycle, etc., etc. Valuing such ecosystems, etc., valuing such ecosystems can be challenging. That means, how do you calculate the value of regeneration of soil, the value of nitrogen fixation, hydrological cycle? These are very tough to quantify, that means to measure. When something is tough to quantify or measure, what do we do? What is the effective value of the list I have given so far? 0. This is the reason, and this is a challenge in green GDP. Write down. Valuing such ecosystems can be challenging with their market value, often termed as 0. Often termed as 0. Impact of pollution need to be calculated because it depletes natural capital. It depletes natural capital. Example, acid rains damages forest, industrial seepage SEEPAG, industrial seepage affects water quality, etc. Third point, the environment Kuznets curve. Look at the board. Environment Kuznets curve is inverted due to local pollutants that lead to short-term damages and not for pollutants that lead to long-term damages The inverted U, I'm referring to the curve. The inverted U curve hides systemic consequences of emissions. Draw the graph. On y-axis it is environment degradation, on x-axis it is per capita income. Environment worsens here. Why? With zero per capita, that means no production activity, that means no environmental degradation. With increasing per capita income, I hope you understand these basics of graph, right? What do you mean by from this point moving towards in this direction on x-axis? Increase. Towards top, increase. In this case, here it is very less. Up to a certain point of time, as far as per capita income is concerned, the pollution levels are increasing and this is a turning point. This is the topmost point of environmental degradation in economy. Then measures were initiated, mitigation steps were taken by the government. It starts declining. Now with the declining environment degradation or improvement in environment, what is happening to per capita income? It is decreasing. Moving this direction is increase. It increases. This is what is happening in developed countries and we are in this phase. Write down. What? What do you mean by in this direction? The graph is moving in this direction. The value increase or decrease? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The values are in thousands. That means when you got higher pollution levels, your per capita income is 4,000. But once you adopted eco-friendly technology, green energy, where environment is considered before any production process, still the per capita income increases, but you're controlling environmental impact. What is happening in developed countries as of now? Germany is having 80% of electricity generated through nuclear energy. What are the emissions of nuclear energy? That means with increasing electricity production, What is happening to environmental degradation? Decreasing. Countries are moving towards renewable energy, particularly developed countries. And you are seeing more of EV vehicles in Europe, even EV cars also. So, over a period of time, mitigative steps are taken. The objective is to reduce environmental degradation. So, what is happening here? From environment becoming worse day by day, here environment is gradually improving. At this point, less pollution is identified. This is about Kuznets curve, environment Kuznets curve. Next. Somebody read the last statement. Okay. Next point. In India, there is no information on. In India, there is no information on total volume of surface water, total volume of surface water, or different sectors where water is used, where water is used, and the quantum used, etc. Different sectors where water is used and the quantum used, that means quantity used. So these are the challenges in computation of green GDP. Let us end the topic. Way forward. World Bank report says, World Bank report says, with the minimal cost of, with the minimal cost of 0.02% to 0.04% of GDP, 0.02% to 0.04% of GDP, India can make green growth. India can make a green growth, can make green growth a reality. It will allow India to maintain, it will allow India to maintain high economic growth without compromising, high economic growth without compromising future environmental sustainability. Future environmental sustainability. Second point, India can follow the template. India can follow the template provided by provided by United Nations system of United Nations system of environmental economic accounting. Environmental economic accounting. We're done with this. Next topic, as far as this GDP and green GDP are concerned, green economy. These two are related. Green economy. Write down. It is a practice of It is a practice of fostering, Fostering, fostering social and environmental sustainability, social and environmental sustainability through the support of, through the support of public private investment, public private investment in infrastructure, in infrastructure. Significance of green economy, significance of green economy is it promotes economies to become, it promotes economies to become more sustainable, more sustainable and low carbon, LOW, low carbon, along with ensuring that, along with ensuring that natural assets continue, natural assets continue to supply the resources, to supply the resources and environmental services, and environmental services required for, required for well-being or community well-being, required for community well-being. Green economy is, green economy is a different vision, a different vision for growth and development, a different vision for growth and development that provides economic progress, that provides economic progress while economic progress while improving people's lives and simultaneously, and simultaneously conserving environment, conserving environment. Green economy is efficient application of, green economy is efficient application of sustainable development, sustainable development in economic activity, in economic activity. Now subheading principles in green economy, principles in green economy. First one, justice principle, second, well-being principle, well-being principle, third, planetary boundaries principle, planetary boundaries principle, fourth, good governance principle, fifth, efficiency and sufficiency principle, efficiency and sufficiency principle. Now let us begin with the principles. Justice principle, write down. Green economy, green economy leads to inclusive growth, leads to inclusive growth, without leaving any social group, without leaving any social group outside the growth strategy, outside the growth strategy. Full stop. Continue the statement. It enables equity, it enables equity within and across generations, within and across generations. Next, it ensures, it ensures minimizing gap between, minimizing gap between vulnerable sections and mainstream society, vulnerable sections and mainstream society by providing, by providing equal opportunities, by providing equal opportunities for growth. Now look at the board. So here, vulnerable sections and mainstream society. What is the reason behind these sections remaining as vulnerable sections? In this case, starting with women, SC, ST, OBC, minority, differently abled, transgender, old, etc. Why these people are remaining as vulnerable as of now? Because they lack opportunities. Now, as far as women is concerned, because women lack equal opportunities, two consequences are visible in economy. Female labor force participation rate is less than the male labor force participation rate in the economy. This is one consequence. Second consequence, wage discrimination. What do you mean by wage discrimination? For the same amount of work, women are receiving less wages in comparison to men. Third, glass ceiling effect. What is glass ceiling effect? Women are not given opportunity to occupy higher positions like company CEOs, chief secretaries, DGPs, chief justice, high court chief justice, etc., both in public as well as private sphere of life. That means green economy with the justice principle, it leads to what? Empowerment of women. IMF in one of its reports says If women are given equal opportunities and equal wages, they can contribute around 2.5 to 3% of GDP additionally every year in India. You just imagine the role played by women. 3% of GDP or 2.5% of GDP every year is not an easy thing. Keep it aside for a while. You got all the time at home to play with it. In this case, one, women are empowered, and then SC/ST. I'll give an example. Government of India has initiated Mudra loans. What is the purpose of Mudra loan? To make SC/ST and women entrepreneurs to become self-sufficient. That means whenever you want to start any business, government under Mudra Yojana, central government will provide you loans under three categories. What are they? Sishu, Kishore, Tarun. Again, what is objective here? Justice principle. Write down. Now come to well-being principle. Green economy ensures generating wealth among all sections of the population and leads to shared prosperity, shared SHARED, shared prosperity, comma, promotes happiness, and prioritizes access to sustainable natural systems, comma, knowledge, education, and infrastructure so that every individual thrives, thrives, and become self-sufficient. What is the next principle? Acha, okay, planetary boundaries. Green economy protects, restores, and invests in environment to achieve biodiversity conservation, equitable growth, replenishment of natural systems, and replenishment of natural systems. What is the next principle? Good governance. Write down. Green economy ensures that individuals and institutions are connected with each other, are connected with each other and responsible towards each other, and responsible towards each other. Next, second point within the good governance principle. By encouraging decentralized decision making, by encouraging decentralized decision making, comma, increasing public participation, increasing public participation, comma, social dialogue, social dialogue, comma, democratic accountability, democratic accountability and transparency, and transparency to safeguard and serve, to safeguard and serve society's interest, to safeguard and serve society's interest. Last principle, right? Efficiency and sufficiency principle. What is that scheme where efficiency of bulbs are increased? We have replaced incandescent bulbs with something else. What is that policy? There is a program for that. Spell it. J. Ujala, right? This is an example for efficiency and sufficiency principle. Write down. Green economy promotes, green economy promotes sustainable consumption and production, sustainable production and consumption and production, so that resources are conserved, resources are conserved and reused. It aligns prices, subsidies, it aligns, ALIGNS, aligns prices, subsidies and incentives with social cost, with social cost through polluter pays principle, through polluter pays principle. Next, role of green economy in India. Role of green economy in India. It will ensure resource efficiency, resource efficiency, sustainable consumption and production, sustainable consumption and production if India focuses on, if India focuses on green financing, green technology and and putting in place putting in place macroeconomic strategy macroeconomic strategy at a national national, regional, sub-regional levels. Sub-regional levels. Next, transition to green economy. The concept of green GDP and green economy, the content was lifted from World Bank report and Niti Aayog report. Transition to green economy. First point, by conserving the biosphere, comma, by decarbonizing economy. Decarbonizing. What do you mean by decarbonizing? Decarbonizing. Reducing carbon footprint. How do you do that? There are several schemes initiated. Green. What is that? Green hydrogen. I heard something. See, in this case, for answers to be relevant and more appealing to the examiner, government schemes are very helpful. In each context, you can add a government scheme in the exam. For this, download government scheme document from any website, go through it. And in this case, I'm forgetting the name of the scheme. Somebody remind me. Where trees are mandated across highways. What is that scheme? What is Haritaharam? No, that could be a strategy. That could be a local level example. Fine, you can write it. But along highways, on the medians on either side of highways, trees are mandatorily planted by National Highway Authority of India. What is that scheme? Anyways, Google చేయండి తెలుస్తుంది. Okay. Next, strategies to decarbonizing economies. That's it. Next, strategies for achieving green economy. First one, transportation. For each of these things, write a sentence appropriately in the examination. But for the time being, try to understand how do you transit from contemporary economic model to green economy, and in this case, transportation. What are the changes that you need to bring in transportation so that your economy is becoming green economy? We need to shift from what? Petrol, diesel to battery vehicles, more of EV vehicles. Second one, increasing public transportation. Then, what do you call that? What are the norms used in vehicle manufacturing as of now? BS 5 or 6? Have you shifted to BS 6? Huh? Okay. Then increasing CNG vehicles and hydrogen buses. Okay, let us add shifting to hydrogen buses. Then discouraging private transportation. This is how In transportation, you can move towards a green economy. Write down. Discouraging private transportation. What was the program initiated by Delhi government? Odd even policy. That could be an example here. Discouraging private transportation. Encouraging public transportation. Something else was also done to encourage public transportation by Kejriwal. What was that? You should know it, at least girls. Free transportation for women in Delhi buses, right? Comma. Shifting towards electric vehicles. Electric vehicles. Is there any phrase, my friend, for hydrogen bus or just hydrogen bus? Anyways, I'm not aware of that. Anyways, add this. Hyderabad. Okay. Okay. You do one thing. Search for it and write the exact phrase in this context. That is a value addition. Very good. Next. Agriculture. It is high time for India to move towards agriculture. It is high time for India to move towards sustainable agriculture. Now, I'm not explaining or expanding sustainable agriculture because we have a separate chapter on agriculture. But for the time being, what do you mean by sustainable agriculture? Saving what? Saving water. How? Self-sufficiency. What is self-sufficiency by saving water? You want to discourage agriculture exports, right? Here the strategy is drip and sprinkler irrigation, climate smart agriculture, then precision farming, then what else is there in agriculture? Other reforms. Right. Zero budget natural farming. These are the strategies to move towards sustainable agriculture. Next. Energy. Energy. Investments should increase. Investments should increase. Towards generation of clean and renewable energy. Clean and renewable energy. Now come to water. Water must be priced. Water must be priced to inculcate responsible behavior, among the users, comma, both for commercial and individual purposes. Both for commercial and individual purposes. Now, in this case, which policy is a hindrance? Free power to agriculture. Next. Waste management. Waste management. Urban solid waste management. Urban solid waste management must include, look at the board, W2E. What is this W2E? Write down within the brackets. Waste to energy projects. Waste to energy projects, so that electricity is generated from urban waste. Electricity is generated from urban waste. Next. Construction. Green building code must be adopted. Green building code must be adopted in construction of high rise buildings. What is green building code? The objective is to allow natural air and light into your house. That means use more of glasses rather than using more of concrete and wooden structures inside the construction. Then, forests and fisheries, last point. By promoting sustainable fishing methods, and encouraging afforestation programs, will ensure increase in green cover, etc. Now, we are done with this. In the exam, mention some government schemes. Okay, the government schemes are initiatives which enable us to move towards a green economy. Now, take down a question on inflation. Inflation inflation is considered a necessary evil for sustained economic growth. Full stop. Critically analyze the statement. In the context of increase in inflation in India. In the context of increasing inflation in India. Since inflation topic was done to you, take a couple of minutes and try to understand the question and write some phrases relevantly. Try to understand and try to identify the core demand of the question. What examiner is expecting from you. Done. Okay, how many of you attempted the question? Only few. 1, 2, 3, 4. What about the others? Acha, okay, fine. You try to do it at home, and whoever has attempted it, come and meet me after the class. Tomorrow we'll begin poverty and unemployment.